Please welcome to the show, Mr. Dan Geltrude. Dan, thanks for coming on all the way from Nutley, New Jersey. What say you? I mean, I think they've got a difficult task in front of them.
Oh, they absolutely do. If not impossible task for the Fed. But look, I've said it all along. They have interjected themselves into wanting to have control over the U.S. economy. And what do you know? They have it. Now, as far as the market goes here, Scott, I got to tell you, I'm actually surprised at how emotional investors are. I mean, they've really become quite an emotional group here. The stock market is about the long game. Okay, and I believe that the rest of the year is going to be volatile. We have a weakening economy. Is that really a news flash? And we have an election coming up, and there's certainly a lot of uncertainty about that. But look, here's the good news. There are going to be plenty of stocks on sale, so buy the dip. Do not get caught up in when the market gets a little bit of indigestion. It happened a few weeks ago, right? It was like it was the end of the world. The economy is bad. Wait a minute. You just woke up to that? You and I have talked about this, Scott. Our economy is very, very fragile. And I can't believe that Wall Street doesn't understand that at this point.
Well, to your point about the end of the world, I mean, this is the part that I don't like about the whole exercise is that it's almost disingenuous because if you've got a 3 to 5 or let's just say this, if you've got over a 3-year time horizon in your investment outlook, the Fed basically, without saying it, is not going to let the market go down very far. They're going to come to the rescue. And you heard some very well-known economists on this last little hiccup at the beginning of August come out right away saying we need to see another 1% cut in interest rates because the Fed has to come to the rescue. It's like we never can let the market heal on its own and let people respect it. Because sometimes it makes me feel like being a stockbroker has been the easiest job in the world since 2008 because as long as you've got a 3-year time horizon, just put your money in the stock market. You'll be just fine. You know, the 3-year return on the S&P 500 is 25%. The 10-year return is 12.5%. I mean, where are you going to get that kind of money? So I don't know. I think that there isn't really going to be an end of the world here, to your point, because I don't just think that the Fed, at least for right now, is going to not let this thing get too out of hand to the downside. What say you?
Well, I agree with you 100%, and it's not a matter of us just pontificating about that. It's real. We see it. You know, the government, and let me be a little bit of a cynic here. Perhaps you'll appreciate this, Scott. Have we become so political in so many ways that whatever party is controlling the government or controlling the White House is really directing the Fed to say, listen, we can't have things run its natural course of peaks and valleys. We have to be at a peak all the time. And when we're not, let's make sure we adjust those interest rates to keep everything as is so we can get reelected. Am I so crazy to think that, Scott?
No, I think both sides absolutely do that. And I tell you what, I mean, whether it's inferred or it's not written, absolutely. And that's the problem because you're trying to get in. I say this all the time, but you're meddling with the laws of nature. And at some point in time, Dan, there will be a natural snapback of where it should be. And I never liked the idea that the Fed was is meddling in our interest rates or in our back pockets so much so that it was going to be hard to get away from them and all of that accommodation. And we're going to pay a price for not letting things look after themselves.
Yeah, I agree, because when you look at the market and look, there's a lot of froth in there. And we say, should that really be here? Was that manufactured by the Fed? And you have to say to some extent, yes. So it's not real, Scott. And at some point, it always comes time to pay the piper. So at some point, we have an adjustment, and it'll be a real adjustment.
Yeah, that's what I don't want to hear. I mean, go back to 1970 on an S&P chart. You can clearly see in 08, 09, 2008, 09, when we had the great financial crisis, where the Fed became ultra accommodative, and that market, although it was on a slow incline, going up until 2008, it ramped up since there like you wouldn't believe. You can, absolutely see where that Fed's going to say, we're not letting this thing go down. And I know until they stop saying that, I guess you got to go with the flow, I suppose. But I always get worried about that musical chairs. Quote real quick.
And Scott, look at what happened in 2008. That financial meltdown absolutely influenced that presidential election.
Absolutely. You're right. You're right. You're a history major. That's awesome. You're very true.